Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us this afternoon for our webinar, Access Granted, Optimizing Account Impact in the Evolving Healthcare Landscape. My name is Ariel Atwood, and I'm the Associate Director of Marketing here at KMK Consulting. If you're not familiar with what we do, KMK is a commercial analytics consultancy, and we've been helping our pharma and biotech clients make better decisions for over 20 years by seamlessly integrating data with insights and helping them maximize their brand success and improve patient lives. And we do this through four main areas, which are Salesforce effectiveness, HEOR, data analytics, and market research. This event is actually part of an educational series that's sponsored by our on-demand biopharma consulting network, the KMK Star Alliance. The network is made up of SMEs who have decades of hands-on experience and offer a wide range of services, anything from advisory interviews to consulting projects or ad hoc work. And the big benefit of this network is actually that you don't need an MSA or procurement approval. You can just easily book and pay for all of the services right on our website with a credit card. So if you haven't checked that out yet, we will put the link in the chat for you. It's kmkstaralliance.com. Before we start, I do want to let you know that this session is being recorded and a copy will be sent out to all of the attendees after the event. Feel free to submit any questions you have through the chat or the Q&A feature, and we should have some time at the end to answer those. Our speakers today are Jim Immormino and Rob Freeburg, both members of the KMK Star Alliance. Jim Immormino is president of BCA Associates. He's an experienced pharmaceutical leader with over 36 years in the industry. He has extensive knowledge of sales, marketing, leadership, training and development, market access, and sales strategy. And he is joined by Rob Freeburg, president and founder of Freebound Strategies. Rob has nearly 20 years of experience successfully operating as a strategic account manager and has facilitated over 100 account management training engagements for pharmaceutical, diagnostic, medical equipment, and CPG account managers. So thank you both for joining us today. And with that, I will hand it over to Rob to kick things off for us.
Thanks, Ariel. So folks, just a quick poll question to kind of get us started here. What is the most significant challenge facing pharma sales and market access teams in today's marketplace? So make your selection. Perfect. Okay, so we have 60% of access, 20% consolidation, the 0 from transition from COVID-19. Maybe that's because we haven't transitioned from it yet. And then 20% regulatory environment. There are no wrong answers in this. All are correct in some way or the other, but the majority of you got it nailed it on the head there, or hit the nail on the head, I should say. That's exactly what we hear from our customers right now, which is access is the #1 issue that they are dealing with. Jim?
Okay, so thank you for the opportunity to share with you some information today on access. If you go to the next slide. There we go. So the traditional pharma model that's been effective for decades is becoming less and less effective as we know it. And you know, the traditional model, a sales call plan with individual HCP targets, one size fits all sales messages, and KPIs focused on reach and frequency, it's becoming just less and less impactful. So the logical question is why? And it's now becoming very clear that there are significant market trends that are impacting accounts and providers within accounts and shifting the dynamics within accounts. The first major trend is consolidation. Consolidation has been occurring for years, but over the last 10 years has been a flurry of mergers and acquisitions in the healthcare sector. IDNs and systems of care have been acquiring physician practices and hospitals. Of course, their goal is negotiation power with payers to dominate markets. But at this point, IDNs now own over 60% of all physician group practices in the United States. When you add in clinically integrated networks, it's now 80%. that means only 2 out of 10 physicians are actually independent providers out in the marketplace. The second trend is reimbursement model. For a long time, the U.S. market or model has been a volume-based model. It's shifting now to a value-based model. And it's been occurring over the last 10, 12 years, accelerated under the Affordable Care Act with the addition of quality and outcomes measures. Quality metrics now have been established, and providers are being paid based on patient outcomes. And greater than 90% of all Medicare payments are tied to patient outcomes. And then the third key trend is a digital shift, the new technology that is forcing people to work differently. So it includes everything from virtual communication, conferences, telehealth, online prescribing, medical portals, and of course, the need or desire for face-to-face interaction is dramatically changed just over the last 2 years because of the pandemic as well. These trends are impacting how providers behave. If you go to the next slide. The vertical integration that we've been talking about has resulted in greater account complexity and sophisticated controls and systems. It has also resulted in the emergence of new roles within accounts, such as population health, quality assurance, and practice management. Centralized decision-making now means that decision makers are concentrated in select accounts, and providers have less overall control over what they do. As group practices are purchased, the provider roles have changed from employer to employee, and new barriers have been created to increase provider compliance and reduce costs. So the net result is providers have less and less autonomy. In addition to all these changes, we're dealing with the additional changes due to the pandemic. Rob, next slide, please.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, and this is from a 2020 Accenture survey. And what you can see here is a significant shift from the traditional model of face-to-face, especially in the B2B world, face-to-face interaction. And what we see now is a significant, trend the other way, with 65% of meetings now held virtually. There's more accounts being restrictive. When they own the physicians, they see any kind of interruption as a detriment and a downward force on the bottom line. So they really want to maintain that sort of ownership of not only the physicians in terms of their healthcare provider, but also own them in terms of their time. So what you have to balance that out with is, in that survey, 88% of providers indicate they want to hear about new treatments despite being in the midst of a pandemic. All of that says is we've got to be able to shift significantly in the pharma world from our traditional face-to-face reliance to one that is going to, I believe, continue to significantly be centered around that virtual engagement like we're doing right now. Next slide. So what we see is that virtual engagement is, it gives you those things that, allow us to be in all different places, allows us to go, at different times and come together. But what you lack is some of that ability really to walk the halls, right? So in a traditional model, I get inside, I have an appointment, and I can then kind of move my way throughout the building. You have a lot of unique opportunities that just aren't present in that virtual world. Certainly the lack of travel and those things can be a benefit, but the virtual engagement is significantly more restrictive in terms of who the audience is. So as the industry moves to more virtual engagement model, they have to significantly shift their expectations as to the number and frequency of contacts from their individuals to their customers. Jim.
Yep, next slide. So as you would expect, pharma companies are responding as they should, right? So some organizations are restructuring and designing new roles. The most common change that we've seen is the addition of what we consider a hybrid role, kind of a combination of a sales rep and a market access person. It's a sales rep with market access skills. Some are shifting from a traditional HCP target list to a target list focused on accounts that include stakeholders in addition to providers. Other organizations are creating unique teams focused on health systems and even ecosystems or geographic areas. But even if an organization doesn't restructure, most organizations are trying to upskill their field organizations. It's now apparent that sales managers and sales reps and account managers need to be more effective at assessing their accounts and understanding what's driving the account, what's important to focus on as they build their plans. And many organizations are looking at accounts as more complex and difficult to work. So in addition to the traditional skills that they need to be better at planning, much more effective at building effective account plans. Next slide. So in addition to that, pharma is also realizing that they need to become more responsive and relevant. And the way they're doing that is organizations are learning that sales teams need to differentiate themselves, adapt their approach to the needs of the customers within those accounts. They need to realize that increase their focus on addressing provider needs and provider priorities. Secondly, sales and market access teams must include more patient-focused service offerings. That's going to make them more relevant. That's having a greater impact with the customer, and it's also addressing their needs. And finally, aligning to the right needs of not only decision makers, but also the influencers, the key stakeholders in accounts. So these new roles are having a greater impact on accounts. And so we need to make sure we understand their needs and address their needs as well. Bottom line, there's a shift away from the traditional pharma approach. Rob?
Yeah, so the four big areas that you see that is, as Jim laid out, is being able to address the customer priorities, evolve those team skills, because a lot of touch points in pharma to customers can overlap, and that can look kind of chaotic to the customer. So it's important that those things are aligned, that people are kind of singing from the same song sheet. The being able to leverage digital technology, not just in this format, just the engagement format, and all of that requires new capabilities. So these are the areas that we're seeing our customers put effort into. And at the end of the day, next slide, we are continually and continue to be asked by our customers to help them do two things: help them have their account managers plan the work more effectively and work the plan, thus engage the customers more effectively. It's simple in theory, simple in concept, but much more difficult in execution.
Yeah, so thanks, Rob. Oh, can you go back one slide, please? Yeah, so the sales, so when we're called in, typically we're asked to provide a framework where teams can understand how to profile accounts, where to find the information on accounts, how to take that information and build an effective account plan. The account plan needs to include strategy and tactics, and how to form effective strategies is a challenge for many organizations. And then finally, understand the key decision roles and how to impact each of those roles, the decision owner and the decision influencer within an account. In addition to that, not only building a plan, but it's also working the plan. So if you go to the next slide, Rob.
So what is it that we think about when we say access and navigate effectively in key accounts? The areas that are of focus and require upskilling is that ability to gain access, right? If that's our biggest restriction, our biggest rate limiting factor, gain access, how do I navigate effectively using my existing relationship structure? So how do I network? How do I gain referrals? How do I build advocacy? And that advocacy piece is a huge one because, again, as we have less frequent and less face-to-face encounters, it's important that there are individuals working on our behalf within those accounts, people that we've cultivated over time. And all of that is really based on that foundation of being able to engage the customer in a way that is both allows for the discovery of insights, but also allows them to share their knowledge and experience and sets themselves apart from, the rest of the crowd. So bottom line, teams must be incredibly efficient at planning their work, and then just as efficient as working that plan.
Next slide. Yeah. So the key takeaways that we've learned over the last several years is clearly accounts have become more complex. They become more restrictive. No doubt about that as a result of the consolidation. A combination of face-to-face and virtual engagement is going to be the norm. It's not going to go away as the pandemic recedes. Understanding accounts and accessing key decision makers is no longer optional. It's now a required skill. So sales reps and account managers need to be able to understand how to do that effectively and efficiently. And then lastly, organizations are realizing they have to align their approach to the account needs, to address the account needs, to become more relevant and more valuable to the account. Now, the question is, does this work? Now, we've had a lot of success. Rob and I have been doing a lot of programs over the last 5 to 6 years. If you go to the next slide, this is just a couple of testimonials, one on account planning and one on business planning. And you can see, many organizations are looking for a framework, something to help them be more effective at working accounts, building an effective plan of working an account. And then the business planning aspect, when you're looking at large geographies, how to assess a market, how to identify the key accounts within that market, and then how to work those the providers and the accounts in that particular market. In both cases, these organizations had great success following our program. And this is a relatively common testimonial that we get following some of the programs that we do on these two topics. So with that, I think we'll open it up for any questions or comments.
Yeah, so if anybody has any questions, now would be a great time to submit those into the chat feature. We do have a few that have come in already. So one is, can you please provide your experience and trends with the med tech industry for heart flow?
So I'll just jump in there and grab that. I have a great deal of experience on the diagnostic part of medical technology, and it's the issues, challenges are mirror what we see in pharma. Different in what I consider, the medical equipment. So those things typically brought in, by your Boston Scientifics, those Stryker, those organizations. Now, the changes that hit their portion of the industry have, they've been later than what's occurred relative to pharma, but the velocity of which those changes has occurred is significant. They don't have, they used to say, people with stents, they had access to the hen house, and not so much anymore. That's not where, I've spent a lot of time in my industry, but at the med tech side, in terms of diagnostics and any of the, evolving capabilities in terms of, identifying the right patients at the right time. What we see in pharma and biotech is mirrored exactly in that space as well.
Great, thank you. Here's one more. We have, what do you mean by assessing the market and building a business plan?
Yeah, so I could take that one. So many organizations, struggle with identifying, understanding the dynamics of a marketplace. What are the key market drivers? Is it in one market, it might be payers are the most significant driver of that market. In other markets, it could be, peer-to-peer. It could be key opinion leaders that have a tremendous impact. So what we do is we go in and help them understand how to assess the different market drivers, identify where the potential opportunities are in a marketplace, and then build plans around that, build business plans around the priorities that they see in that particular market.
Thanks, Jim. Okay, we have one last question here. Do you build any templates for business plans or account plans?
Yeah, I can take that one as well.
Good.
So, yeah, so many organizations, you know, I guess the typical organization that we've encountered have some kind of a business plan or an account plan. Typically, it's on a SharePoint. It's either in Excel, it's either in PowerPoint or Word, and those are fine, except they're very difficult to manage. They're very difficult to update, and so a lot of organizations prefer going to an app, and an online app that is updated in real time. It's visible by certain levels of the organization. It can be utilized across different teams. So several teams that are working in that account can see everything that's going on in the account. So I guess the best way to do that is an app, and we do build those. So we usually spend a lot of time assessing the needs of an organization and then work with the organization to build an effective business plan template, and incorporated into the business plan template is the account plan template as well.
Well, and to that point, it's about probably in the last 2 years, it's been about 50-50, whether they have an existing planning framework or they don't. And when they don't, we provide one regardless of where they house the plan. So, you know, we come in with a framework, and on the other 50%, what we do is tailor the training, the development, all to whatever their language is. So it's important to understand that sort of common language. And our focus when it comes to helping the account managers get more effective in planning is to get them thinking in a strategic manner, spending time in their situational analysis, understanding the marketplace, and then building their strategies from there versus just focusing on the template. We see a lot of activity in the industry where they're just starting with the template, and that we just, you know, philosophically don't believe that's the place you start with your planning.
Right.
Great. Okay. I think that's all for today.
Okay.
Thank you, Jim and Rob, for presenting today. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. Please be sure to follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest updates, and visit our website if you'd like to learn more about the services that we offer, kmkstaralliance.com or kmkconsultinginc.com. Thanks again. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.